Yes, I know. I've said before that Gagarin is a horrible ID that should never see play unless you really want to cripple yourself. But I think I found a way for it to work. This is definitely not a tier 1 deck. There's way too much variance for this to work reliably, but this is actually a rather effective deck um, when the opponents don't see it coming. It's actually something that you can easily subdue anyone who is not prepared to deal with the taxing power of Gagarin Deep Space. So this is basically a horizontal deck. Most of the pros advocate playing Gagarin Deep Space as a vertical deck, where you install lots of taxing upgrades in one server and protect that server, so that every time you access a different upgrade in the server, you have to pay 1 credit. Here I'm just going the pure horizontal route by playing lots and lots of assets. Pet campaigns, Melanges mining corps, Constellation protocols, all the money assets that I can think of besides private contracts, which is just horrible. Then there's also Turtlebacks, which I see in my opening hand, which is fantastic in this sort of horizontal setup. I even have a diversified portfolio to bounce off once I get enough remotes going, and you simply can't trash them all. The best thing about Gagarin Deep Space is that it works against imp. You can try imping my assets. It's still cheaper for you to do that, but you still have to pay 1 credit every time you go to imp something, which is pretty huge. Because if you're running imp, you most likely don't have enough credits. You can't afford the credits to do that sort of thing. So here I begin by installing Turtlebacks and 2 pet campaigns, and I so confidently do so because even if my opponent plays a Conf Siphon, I can easily rest both pet campaigns and deny the Siphon. So that's why I felt very comfortable leaving HQ open. Unfortunately, this means that he can run my HQ, and in this case, he stole my Melange, which I'm not too happy about. So I decided to just clear my hand after that, since all the stuff in my hand are assets or agendas. And this is something that this deck does very well. Install Atlases naked and scores them next turn. It is very difficult to contest Atlases with the sheer number of assets and upgrades that I'm playing. You can't afford to check every single one of these. And one thing I did here was to not rest the pet campaigns. That was by accident, but also it helps with the shell game. He cannot check all these remotes at the same time, so he's probably just going to let it go. And sure, he does. He lets me score the Atlas for free. But why score the Atlas? It's just going to deactivate my Hive. So right now, I'm just going to draw cards and hopefully I get some ice, which I do, which I protect R&D with. Again, I'm quite immune to Siphon at this point, so I can leave HQ open. You saw that I purged Virus Counters with Cyberdeck's Virus Suite earlier. Imp is a nightmare card for me to deal with because this is a very combo-based deck, as you saw by the splash screen. I won't say it's the only way to win, but the main line of victory here is Psychographics into Government Takeover. Due to my influence limit, I can only run 1 Psychographics and 2 mid-season replacements, and I want to see both copies of them. So ensuring that Imp doesn't fire off is huge. Edward Kim is a very bad matchup, and Imp is also something I don't want to see. So Cyberdeck's Virus Suite comes in very handy at this point, making sure that it doesn't trash my important NBN operations. So he accesses my HQ and does see the mid-season so he knows that I'm up to something here. And I draw into my government takeover. So I immediately use Jackson to try to find the best piece of ice to keep him out. I decide that Caduceus should be taxing enough, especially since Max has 0 link. This should help a lot. And that's another good thing about playing this deck. Opponents generally don't contest your Jackson Howard, so that could be really helpful. Alright, so he basically spends lots of time getting money, and right now, my whole combo is set up. Not my whole combo, but everything is ready to go at this point, because as long as I have more credits than him, I can start to actually score out agendas openly, like installing and advancing NAPDs. That is the other agenda that I run in this deck. I can afford to do so. It will cost him a lot of mud credits to steal my NAPD, which means that I will be able to basically mid-seasons him very easily. He is not contesting my Turtlebacks or my pet campaigns, which are giving me very strong flip economy. Meanwhile, he's losing credits by installing his York and Corroder. So now the tides are turning. Previously, I didn't have too many credits, but now I'm actually having a lot of credits, and yes, I now actually have a credit lead. So I would like to solidify this credit lead, and when I'm done with that, I'll start scoring out agendas for real. Alright, so I decide to score agendas now. There is an atlas lying somewhere on the first row of my remotes, but again, I'm not interested in playing that yet. Scoring that yet, because yeah, why should I bother? He's not gonna check it. But if he does attempt to steal the second atlas that I just placed behind that piece of ice, he's going to be in trouble. So I res the hive against him, and this is why I don't really want to score my first atlas. This hive has 5 subroutines, it costs him 6 credits to break. He needs to think twice about it, especially since he has to pay 1 more credit to access the atlas. He checks out. Very good. So my atlas is going to be saved there for a long time. Long time. Again, I'm in no hurry to score it. In fact, I don't really want to score atlases until I fire off my Midseasons. Because I need every single credit I can get. I need to make sure that I can slap at least 9 tags on the runner. Otherwise, my Midseasons is quite waste. Because I need that many tags to score a government takeover. In the meantime, I continue solidifying R&D because I'm pretty sure he's running medium since he has a Grimoire out, and he shows me the bad news. He is playing Imp into legwork. Oh dear, I could lose the game right here. Government takeover and Midseasons are 2 cards that I cannot afford to let him hit. So my first trace, he allows me to gain the 3 credits, and here I bump the trace up sufficiently such that it deters him from running. I boosted it to 7 credits so he can still get through. I needed to save some credits to fire off the Midseasons trace in case he does steal the government takeover. He actually bounced out, which was an unfortunate choice by him. And the worst thing is that he went to contest archives later and steal my NAPD. In doing so, he accessed my Cyberdex Fire Suite, which cleared his imp. So he basically, that was a big mistake from him, and because of that, suddenly I'm in a good position to win. He was placing quite a lot of pressure on me. The legwork into imp was really scary, but now that I've survived that, he's in a lot of trouble. He's down to 4 credits after stealing the NAPD. I'm going to make him pay for it. And yeah, he should have known not to steal the NAPD, especially since I have a Res Jackson on board. This means that I actually wanted him to steal it. And obviously, here, I basically dump all my credits into the trace. He takes 14 tags, and that's the end of the game. Basically, now, the rest of the game, I spent digging for my Psychographics. That took quite a while because it was at the bottom of my deck. So he spent quite a lot of time trying to trash my Nebula, and I put more ice on R&D, so it's harder for him to get through, but he still gets through, gets a couple of medium tokens, which is very dangerous. I install more assets and start to score an Atlas sometime in the future. He continues running, but I make sure he doesn't get in. I find my paywall implementation, which is a really, really good current. It's so good in Gagarin, I'll explain it later, but basically it made me a lot of money. And I continue installing remotes because I still cannot find my Psychographics. It's ridiculous. And yes, I find all my dedicated response teams, which means that now I can hit him, and I do. I res all 6 dedicated response teams, 3 of them for 6 meat damage. So he was forced to draw up and draw lots and lots of cards. And he has to run my dedicated response teams before doing anything, but that's too late because my Psychographics has finally arrived. So he cannot afford to run any other servers because he will take 6 meat damage if he does. He still chose to keep the 14 tags. So at this point, he's like, okay, nothing much I can do here. He just installs a clone chip and gets some money and passes the turn over to me, at which point I insta-win the game. After scoring an Atlas, I do get the Psychographics off for the win. And that was it. So, paywall implementation is basically a mandatory agenda in Gagarin Deep Space, simply because every time they check a remote, it costs them 1 credit, and you gain 1 credit yourself. That is such a huge swing, and it basically says to the runner, you are not going to run remotes. And that is a huge help. So, since you're playing currents, you want to thin the agenda density of your deck. That's where government takeover comes in. It's such, it introduces so much variance into your games, but I think in the long run, it's actually better to play government takeover, like it or not, because you are freeing up more space for money and ice. You actually make currents very, very good. My entire deck has only um, 8 agendas, I believe, and 3 of them are NAPDs, which are very hard to steal. So the agenda density is so incredibly low, such that currents become very, very good. They stay on the board for a very long time. And lastly, I think it's something that's often overlooked. With government take over your deck, you can actually control the agenda density in your 3 central servers very, very well. For example, that entire game I had government take over in hand, and I knew that for him it would be unappealing to run my hand. So I just needed to slap a Caduceus on HQ and keep government take over in my hand for the rest of the game. I never had to worry about his R&D digs because in the back of my mind I knew that he would never win. Even if he had 4 or 5 medium counters on medium, he would have to get seriously lucky to find all my agendas in my deck. So that's the benefit of having government take over your deck. Of course, a good runner would pose much more trouble. Had he gone through with that legwork, the game would have been very different, and I could have just lost right off the bat. But yeah, that's a good thing. When you know where all your agenda points are concentrated in, you can take better calculated risks against runner multi-access. Thanks for watching. Happy net running. Goodbye.